You probably think you have a growth mindset. Most people do. You believe effort matters. You tell yourself failure is feedback. You like learning, improving, becoming better. But here's the problem. A lot of people who believe in growth mindset are still being controlled by a fixed mindset underneath it. They just don't realize it, because it's hiding in smarter clothes. And that hidden gap is exactly why some people consume endless self-improvement content, work incredibly hard, talk constantly about growth, and still stay stuck in the same place year after year. So in this video, I want to show you the part almost nobody talks about, not the surface-level version, not the motivational poster version. I'm going to break down what Carol Dweck's work actually points to, why so many people misunderstand it, and the 3 hidden signs your fixed mindset may still be running your decisions, even if you swear you've outgrown it. And the 3rd sign is the most dangerous, because it looks the most like growth. Most people think fixed mindset means something obvious. They imagine a person who hates learning, avoids difficulty, gives up easily, and refuses feedback. But that's too simple. In real life, fixed mindset is much sneakier than that. It often shows up in ambitious people, thoughtful people, hardworking people, even people who are deeply into self-improvement. Because at its core, fixed mindset is not really about laziness. It's not really about being closed-minded. It's about identity protection. And once you see that, everything changes. Because now you realize a fixed mindset person is not always asking, "Can I improve?" Sometimes they're asking a much quieter question without even noticing it. What would this mean about me if I fail? That's the real engine underneath a lot of stuck behavior. Not lack of discipline, not lack of information, fear of what the result might say about who you are. That's why someone can read books, take courses, journal every morning, listen to podcasts, and still be trapped. They are learning, yes, but only in ways that do not threaten their identity. And the second learning starts to involve public uncertainty, visible struggle, or the possibility of looking average. Something changes. The game is no longer growth. The game becomes self-protection. That brings us to the first hidden sign. The first sign is this: you love learning, but only when nobody can see you be bad at it. This one catches a lot of smart people, because on the surface it looks healthy. You read, you study, you research, you prepare. You probably know more theory than most people. But then a real moment shows up. A meeting where you could ask the question. A project where you would have to do it live. A skill where the beginner stage would be visible. Suddenly, your relationship with learning changes. Now, you don't want to experiment. You want to look competent. You don't want to ask. You want to appear like you already know. You don't want to practice in public. You want to disappear and come back later once you're polished enough to protect your image. That is fixed mindset in disguise. Think about how often this happens. Someone wants to get better at speaking, but they keep preparing instead of speaking. Someone wants to build a business, but spends 6 months researching instead of selling. Someone wants to get fit, but only works out when they can do it privately because being seen as a beginner feels unbearable. They tell themselves they're being thoughtful, strategic, responsible. But underneath all of it is the same fear. I can learn, as long as learning doesn't expose me. And that's the test. Not whether you like learning in theory, whether you can tolerate not looking impressive while you're learning in reality. The second sign is even more common, especially in high achievers. And this one silently kills momentum for years. You treat effort as evidence that something is wrong. A real growth mindset sees effort as normal. Of course it's hard. Of course it takes repetition. Of course it feels awkward before it feels natural. That's what learning is. But people with a fixed mindset often carry a hidden belief that sounds like this: if I were truly good at this, it wouldn't feel this hard. That belief is deadly, because now effort doesn't mean engagement. It means deficiency. Struggle doesn't mean growth. It means maybe this is proof you don't have what it takes. So the minute something becomes demanding, frustrating, or slower than expected, your brain quietly starts translating difficulty into identity. Not, this is part of the process, but this may be exposing my limits. Watch how this plays out in real life. Someone starts a new skill, feels clumsy for 2 weeks, and assumes they're not naturally built for it. Someone starts posting content, doesn't get traction immediately, and decides they must not have the personality for it. Someone tries to improve their relationships, finds it emotionally exhausting, and concludes they're just not good at communication. In every case, effort gets interpreted as a verdict. But effort is not a verdict, it's often just the price of admission. And this is why 2 people can face the exact same challenge and walk away with completely different stories. One person says, "This is hard because I'm growing." The other says, "This is hard because maybe I'm not enough." Same effort, totally different meaning, and the meaning is what changes behavior. Now, the third sign is the most deceptive one of all, because this one can live inside people who genuinely believe they've changed. You have replaced actual growth with the identity of being someone who grows. This is where things get dangerous. At some point, you stopped just trying to improve and started building a story about yourself as a person who improves. You started seeing yourself as self-aware, evolved, disciplined, growth-oriented. Maybe you even talk about your journey, the lessons, the healing, the mindset shifts. And to be fair, some of that may be real. But over time, the story itself becomes something you have to protect. Now, any feedback that doesn't fit your narrative feels irritating. Any failure that clashes with your self-image gets minimized. Any new situation where you might look immature, unskilled, emotional, needy, weak, or confused becomes strangely hard to enter. Not because you don't care about growth, but because now growth has become part of your brand. And brands do not like contradiction. This is one of the cruelest traps in self-improvement. You no longer have to defend your intelligence. Now you defend your evolution. You no longer protect the identity of naturally talented. You protect the identity of someone who has done the work. And the irony is brutal. The more attached you become to the story of growth, the harder it becomes to actually keep growing. That's why some people become experts in the language of transformation without becoming much more free. They can describe their patterns beautifully. They can explain their wounds. They can post deep captions. They can teach what they themselves are still avoiding. The vocabulary improves. The vulnerability becomes aesthetic. But the underlying mechanism is the same. Identity first, truth second. And that is what makes false growth mindset so dangerous. It doesn't look like resistance, it looks like progress. So where does this leave you? Here's the part that matters most. The goal is not to become a pure growth mindset person forever. That was never the point. Carol Dweck has been clear that most people are a mixture. The real question is not, do I have a growth mindset? The real question is, where does my identity become so fragile that growth stops being the priority? That question changes everything. Because now you stop judging yourself in broad labels and start observing yourself in specific moments. When do you suddenly go quiet? When do you over-prepare? When do you lose momentum? When do you become weirdly defensive? When do you procrastinate on the thing you say matters most? Those moments are usually more revealing than all the books you've read. So here's the exercise. Pick one area of your life where you feel genuinely stuck, not casually delayed. Stuck. A skill you keep saying you'll build, a conversation you keep avoiding, a project that has been almost ready for months, a goal that somehow always turns into more planning. Pick the place where your feet keep moving but your life doesn't. Then write down every reason you've been giving yourself for why you haven't moved on it. Everything. No cleaning it up. No trying to sound wise. Just dump it all out. I'm too tired. I need more time. I need more clarity. I'm not ready. I need better tools. I should wait until things calm down. I don't know enough yet. Put it all on paper. Then go through each reason and ask one question. Is this protecting me from failure? Or from finding out something about myself? That question will cut deeper than most people expect. because practical constraints are real. Sometimes you do need more time, more money, more support, more information. But a lot of the reasons we repeat are not really logistical. They are psychological bodyguards. They are there to keep us from discovering something we do not want to feel, that we might not be exceptional, that we might be behind, that we might need to start smaller than our ego likes, that we might try hard and still be imperfect, that we might not get instant proof we're who we hoped we were. That is the territory of fixed mindset. And once you see it, don't respond with force. Don't try to crush it with hype. That usually just drives it underground. Get curious instead. What exactly am I afraid this will mean about me? What story am I trying to preserve? What image am I protecting? Because the shift usually does not happen when you pump yourself full of confidence. It happens when you stop making the outcome carry your identity. That's the deeper version of growth mindset people miss. Growth mindset is not blind optimism. It is not pretending you'll win. It is not standing in the mirror saying powerful things while your nervous system quietly panics in the corner. Growth mindset is the willingness to engage with reality when the result is uncertain and your worth is not on the line. That's it. And when you really understand that, you stop asking, "Can I guarantee success?" and start asking, "Can I stay present long enough to learn what this situation has to teach me without turning it into a judgment of who I am?" That is a much stronger question. So this week, find the stuck place. Write the reasons. Ask whether each one is protecting you from failure or self-discovery, and then make one move toward the thing that threatens your identity. Not a huge move, not a dramatic reinvention, just one move. Send the email. Publish the imperfect post. Ask the beginner question. Have the awkward conversation. Attempt the draft. Enter the room before you feel ready. Small, visible courage is usually where real growth begins. Because the growth mindset is not the belief that you will definitely succeed. It is the willingness to find out without collapsing your identity into the result. It is the decision to let the experience teach you more than your ego can control. And that is a practice, not a personality trait, which means it can be built. And maybe that's the most freeing part of this entire conversation. Your fixed mindset is not proof that you are broken. It is not some evil flaw buried inside you. It is a protective system. It developed to keep you safe. The problem is not that it exists. The problem is when you let it drive without noticing. The moment you can see it in real time, you have more power than you did before. Not perfect power, but real power. So if this video felt uncomfortably specific, good. That discomfort may be the first honest signal you've had in a while. Not that you're failing, that you're finally looking in the right place. And once you can see the protection, you can stop mistaking it for growth. If this gave you a more honest lens than the usual self-improvement fluff, subscribe to this channel. Because around here, the goal is not to make you feel inspired for 10 minutes and unchanged for 10 years. The goal is to help you see clearly enough to move. And if someone came to mind while you were watching this, send it to them.